Welcome to ETUK's The World This Week, but funnier.
All right, hello planet Earth, and a special shout out to any Martians out there trying to figure out our stock market. I'm your host. Think of me as a posh robo-ringmaster dressed sharper than a fresh limit order. And this is the show where we take a look at the week's news, watch it try to act all serious, and then, we tickle it until it gives up all the funny bits. So this week, it really feels like the world aimed for sensible and then just immediately tripped over the nearest headline. We've got ceasefires that come with a whole lot of side-eye, airspace violations that lasted less time than it takes to pick something on Netflix, and, get this, the king praying with the Pope? No, I'm not kidding. Let's dive in. Okay, first up, we do have to start with something pretty serious. The situation in Gaza and Israel is, well, it's grim and painfully real. I know it's a sobering way to kick things off, but it's important. So we're going to start there, with a bit of empathy, before we dive headfirst into the rest of this week's chaos. So with this fragile ceasefire sort of taking hold, the heartbreaking work is happening. Families are finally able to identify their loved ones. And, it's just this stark reminder of the very real human stakes that are sitting right behind all the diplomatic machinery. Machinery that, let's be honest, everyone is watching like a hawk, and not many people seem to trust. And while that's happening, you've got U.S. diplomats on the ground monitoring everything. The official line from the Secretary of State's office is, and I quote, "There is no plan B." Now, is that a statement of rock-solid confidence? Or is it maybe what you say when you've kind of misplaced the folder that has Plan B written on it in big, bold letters? You tell me. All right, let's shift gears and head over to the Baltics. Because it looks like the International Neighborhood Watch is having a, shall we say, awkward moment. And yeah, this really just nails the whole vibe, doesn't it? So the story goes that two Russian military aircraft just sort of dipped into Lithuanian airspace. Just for a second. And Moscow's response? It was basically, what line? I don't see a line. It's the classic geopolitical version of saying, oh, I didn't trip, I was just checking if the floor was okay. Get this, the entire incident lasted just 18 seconds. 18! That's just long enough to burn your tongue on a microwave pizza roll. Or maybe more accurately, long enough to panic refresh your entire stock portfolio 3 times. Lithuania obviously called it a serious breach, and NATO had to scramble some Spanish jets to, let's just say, politely escort the tourists out of the area. Okay, let's hop across the channel to Britain, a place that had a week so bizarre it felt like a game show where the rules were written in invisible ink. Seriously, we've got royals, we've got politics, and we've got trains, all fighting it out for the coveted Most Bizarre Headline of the Week award. So, you're not going to believe this one. His Majesty the King prayed with the Pope. Publicly! That hasn't happened in something like 500 years. You can just picture the scene, right? The entire royal protocol team just frantically tearing through old binders, sweating, whispering to each other, wait, is there a manual for this? Where's the manual? And into other British news, something commuters have only dreamed of. Eurostar is bringing double-decker high-speed trains to the UK. Finally, we might get commuter legroom that isn't just a theoretical concept. Now, don't get too excited. They're not set to arrive until the 2030s, but hey, at least we've got the shiny press photos to give us a little bit of hope for the future. So yeah, British trains are finally building up, not out. It's kind of like their housing market, really. Just with, fewer gazebos and, we can only hope, a lot more punctuality. Maybe. We'll see about that part. All right, time to pivot over to the world of money. The general mood this week, well, I think twitchy is the perfect word for it. The markets felt like this weird cocktail of whispered rumors about rate cuts, some serious crypto jitters, and just a whole lot of pure, unadulterated nervous energy.
And you could see that energy nowhere clearer than in the world of Bitcoin. It spent the entire week doing its best impression of a hummingbird that just downed a triple espresso. I mean, after hitting those crazy record highs, the vibe this week was, let's just call it, complicated.
Yeah, looking at the crypto market this week, it felt like it couldn't decide if it wanted to go to the moon or just go cry in the bathroom where nobody could see. I mean, October is usually a really bullish month for crypto, but this one feels like it definitely skipped leg day.
And speaking of nervous energy, all eyes are on Apple, which is reporting its earnings on Thursday. This pretty much sums it up perfectly, right? Investors, they want growth. Consumers, we just want a battery that lasts longer than a commercial break. And Apple? Well, Apple just wants your bank details, please, and thank you.
Okay, time for the lightning round. Let's do a super quick whirlwind tour of everything else that was buzzing around in the headlines. We've got storms, we've got starships, the whole shebang.
So, down in the Caribbean, we've got Tropical Storm Melissa, who's basically just loitering around like a big cloud with commitment issues. So, a heads up to everyone in Jamaica, Haiti, the Caymans, Cuba, keep your eyes on the sky and get your supplies ready. Remember, the most boring, unused hurricane kit is always the best kind to have. All right, let's recap those headlines in like 10 seconds flat. Ready? NATO jets played a little game of I see you with Russian planes. Eurostar is growing a second story, which is new. Apple's about to spill the tea on its earnings, and the king met the Pope. You got all that? Good. Moving on. And last but not least, we can't forget about space. SpaceX's Starship had another successful test flight, landing its booster right in the Gulf. The world's biggest rocket is just getting its reps in, you know? You can just feel it. A future Mars geologist is probably already pre-naming all the rocks, things like marketing rock and sponsored by... Okay, let's bring this whole thing in for a landing. After a week of geopolitical tiptoeing, wild market mood swings, and some seriously historical handshakes, what's the one thing we should take away from all this beautiful, beautiful chaos?
So what's the big word of wisdom for the week? What's the lesson here? I mean, if a fighter jet can violate your airspace in 18 seconds, and a single rumor can absolutely tank your portfolio in 2, what have we learned?
Well, the lesson is this, my friends. In the markets, and you know what, in life in general, you need to set your stops a whole lot tighter than your alibis.
Because I can guarantee you, one of them is going to get tested before you've even had your morning coffee. And that is all the time we have for this week. Hey, check your sources, be kind to each other out there, and we will see you on the next show.